What if aliens were just more human than us?
That could yeah, that's weird. That's a weird one to think about.
You're listening to the Absolutely Cosmic Podcast.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Absolutely Cosmic Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything self improvement from the nerdy perspective. I'm your host, Joshua Salgado, and I'd like to welcome on a special guest, fitness enthusiast, tree work specialist, as well as a fellow friend of mine, Kyle Bradley. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Josh. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, man.
Yeah, happy to be here, dude. Support.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Awesome. I'm excited. This is really cool. I had Jake a few weeks back and now I have you. It's the dynamic duo.
Kicking and screaming, dog.
Hell yeah. All right. So, I guess let's start off with a few questions. What do you do? What is your day job and how'd you get started in it?
Well, I guess technically one of my day jobs is I'm a tree climber, as Josh mentioned, and do all things tree. We do a lot of dirt work and that type of stuff too. I'm Jake's right hand man, and help him grow this company we got going on here.
Hell
But
yeah.
I started roughly 5 years ago just as a groundman. It was supposed to just supposed to be a summer job before I found something more or something different. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I started doing that. I did that for 3 months, and found out I really liked it, and started getting into climbing and doing all different type of technical stuff, and yeah, now we're here.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So I worked with you guys. So I, I always wondered how the hell did you get so adept? Because Jake was always saying how you were relatively new, like you're only a few, you haven't been doing this like for your career like long years. That most people do. They get adept and very skilled at climbing and tree work, and it takes a long time to be up in the trees and being able to rappel like that. How did you become so adept so early on?
Honestly, it was all of the training. Shout out my friends Josh and Nick and everybody who helped me in the journey. But being able to start at the company I started at, and make moves to different companies, learn different perspectives, and see a lot of different climbers, but some very very technical climbers.
Got you.
Was kind of the big thing. Climbing with them every day, working behind them every day, and kind of learning my own way, and it's just pushing yourself and learning a new aspect, and just motivation to keep getting better and doing more, and
Hell
being
yeah.
becoming more efficient.
Definitely, definitely. So, you know, when it comes to, training or training, like you said, and that skill set that you're building, what was like one of the things that you first struggled with initially?
The biggest thing I can think of is trusting your ropes. I mean,
Mhm.
it's when the heights are one thing. You kind of learn once you go up a few times not to look down, and then it's not as scary. But
Yeah,
just being able to trust your ropes and
yeah,
know your knots, and being able to um learn how to maneuver with them, and not and let go, and
yeah.
be more so handsy than hanging on and having that fear.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. I mean, those ropes, they got to be rated at, probably what, 20,000 pounds, maybe 10,000 pounds more like, but
Yeah,
they
I
got to
think
be
the safe working loads around, I think it's around 7. Don't quote me, I don't really know that as
okay.
much. I just the rigging ropes are definitely
Yeah,
different, and climbing ropes are definitely different, but
yeah,
I mean it's well substantial to hold your body weight plus.
yeah,
So
100%. Hell yeah, man. That's sick. When I was seeing you up there, it almost reminded me of like, when you're on like TikTok or YouTube shorts and you see like the rock climbers and they
oh
have
yeah.
like the little clips and stuff. It always make me think of that because you just like swing like Tarzan through, freaking grab on, you clip it real quick, and you're like with the chainsaw, like you look like a freaking pro, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good time. I mean, rock climbing and tree climbing are two totally
Yeah.
different
Oh, yeah.
avenues. But
Yeah.
you see, the best tree workers are and the best tree climbers are guys that are really efficient
Yeah.
climbing rocks as well. You're able to work away from using your rope a lot less and
Yeah.
more using your hands and your body weight positioning. Um,
Hell yeah.
which I wish I got more into that. I would probably be a better climber than I am now. But yeah, but it's definitely tree climbers and rock climbing, two totally different avenues. But if you
Yeah.
put them together, I mean, it's similar esque, but it's definitely you definitely become the most efficient you can be in that
Yeah.
aspect.
Hell yeah. All right. So what is one good thing and one bad thing, or one thing that you love and one thing that you hate about working with trees?
Oof. I mean the adrenaline rush is definitely a good thing. I mean if you're taking out like a big top or
Yeah.
rigging big logs and stuff, the technical aspect side of things. I love that. I love the adrenaline of it. Being able to be efficient and move around a tree is always fun, running up branches, taking big swings, catching branches,
Mm-hmm.
It's that's always a good thing. The bad thing is definitely the what goes into it. There's a lot of chance to have accidents, and it's a very
Yeah.
accident prone industry, and a lot
Yeah.
of things just happen sometimes. Branches
Mm-hmm.
break, trees let go, bad cuts, bad hinges. There's a
Yeah.
lot that can go wrong, and I've
Yeah.
seen a lot go wrong. But it's being able to be confident in what you're doing.
Yeah.
But definitely it's definitely the accidents and the chance of something happening is definitely
Yeah.
the biggest flaw.
Yeah. I mean, there's this kind of like, I don't want to say like stigma, but a lot of people, if you're like, oh yeah, I do tree work, they're like, oh my god, that's dangerous. Like you got to be careful. Like chainsaws are dangerous, which I mean, they can be if you don't use them right. Like
Exactly.
I remember when you guys are teaching me, and like you guys are like, don't use the, they call it, you guys called it like the death tip, the tip, that front tip, that 2 to 3 inches,
Yep.
because it'll flick it kick it back to you. And I
Yep.
feel like, I guess that's a testament to you and Jake, how you guys take safety, but like as an overall industry you have to be a little bit more cautious, because like you said, you never know when a tree is going to let go. Like you could go up to it and it could look healthy, or it could look completely dead, and it may not be, or half of it might be, kind of thing. So you have to kind of assess. And I've always admired how you guys were very aware of your surroundings, where, I heard the stories of you guys talking about how, you had coworkers or people you knew in the industry that would just cowboy it and just be like, let's just climb it. And it's a completely dead, like, tree that's almost like driftwood at that point.
Yeah, yeah, safety is a big thing.
Yeah.
Hearing about all the accidents, and I mean, I'm
Hmm.
sure everybody's seen,
Yeah.
crazy tree work fails and,
Hmm.
people doing ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
Safety is definitely the biggest thing.
A hundred
Um,
percent.
and learning from the companies I was at, which are very safety driven companies,
Yeah.
you take a lot with that, and then again, you have the people in front of you, the people above me that taught me to do things the right way. And that's a huge thing. Being
Yeah.
able to be safe and be
Hmm.
efficient, but safety's easily the most important thing.
100%. And I think a lot of people disregard, like, I don't know, life is dangerous as a whole, and
Yeah.
there's jobs that need to be done, like tree work, dirt work, even like, and I know like you guys don't do landscaping, but landscaping, anything outside, it needs to be done. Like it can't. It's a thing as a society that's needed. So it's like we need people to do the dangerous, stressful, scary jobs, kind of thing. And it's just like I have high respect for you guys, you and Jake, who are just like crushing it. Like you guys get in there at like, 5:45. You guys are getting everything ready. You guys are going out to a job, and like even Jake said, you never know, because it's dealing with nature. You never know what you're really getting into. The homeowner, you could take a picture. The homeowner could be like, "Oh yeah, the tree's good. It's just we got to get rid of it for insurance purposes, or it doesn't look good anymore." And you get there, and it's like, "Oh, like this is a bigger, thing." You know what I mean? Or it's more dangerous than we anticipated. And the fact, like you said, knowing how to do things because you were taught by the people who trained you how to do them properly and safely, that's just again a testament to how things should be done. And doing the dangerous job, doing it right, you're not always going to be risking, getting, crushed by a giant oak tree.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of things change. Last week we had a fun one where we encountered a raccoon in a tree. Yeah,
Really?
so yeah, it was like
How
60
did that
feet
how
up.
did that was it like as it fell, the tree like the raccoon came out or
No, no, I mean, we set up on a tree. We set up on a tree, and we're gonna, limb it up and take a big top out,
Yeah,
take some wood out, and then drop the stem. Well, we went out. I went up about halfway, and it's like 50. It was like 50 feet in the air,
yeah.
40 feet in the air, something like that. And there's just a raccoon hanging out on a branch. So
Damn.
yeah. So you kind of got to change plans. We set a line a
Yeah.
little bit lower and ended up dropping the whole thing, and everything went well. But things change by the minute.
Yeah. That raccoon must have been like, "What the hell is going This is my house. What are you doing?"
Yeah, to be honest, I don't even know what happened. I don't even know what happened to it. We set the line
Yeah.
and we did a couple of other things. Nobody ever saw the raccoon come down. We ended up dropping the tree, and I thought we were gonna find a dead raccoon, but there was nothing. There was nothing
Nah.
to be found.
He must have ran out as soon as he had the chance. He was like, "This is crazy."
Yeah, we were taking videos. We're seeing if it was gonna jump jump on anybody. We were waiting for it. I was hoping to get a funny video of it. It'd have
Yeah.
been
That
good.
would that would have been a viral video if it jumped on Jake. You're
Yeah,
cutting it down.
yeah, that would have been great. But
Yeah.
no, nothing happened. We were
Hell yeah,
waiting for
that's
it
good
though.
though. No one needs rabies.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I have one more question before I have my conspiracy question for you. And the
Okay.
conspiracy question has to do with trees. But
Okay.
this last question, how do you balance? Because you're a machine dude. I remember we'd have like a long ass day, especially when I started in the summer heat. And then you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go hit legs or I'm going to lift. Like, how do you balance that where you have a long day, you're working your ass off and the job's physical, like very physical, and then you're going and you have the energy to go lift and like do your cardio and like keep your fitness side going.
That's always tough. I mean, in high school I was a little bit bigger. But it kind of transformed into right after high school. I got into lifting, and it was with my friends, and we had a good time doing it, and ended up seeing like a lot of like change and for the
Yeah.
better, and becoming more confident, becoming myself in that aspect.
Hmm.
But then when it came time for work, I mean, there was definitely when I first started doing tree work, I lost the discipline and the motivation to go
Yeah.
because it was middle of summer, it was hot, it was
Hmm.
you're burning yourself out during the course of the day. But it all comes down to it honestly all came down to discipline. It was
Yeah.
no matter how tired I got, the gym was my release of stress on the
Oh
day.
yeah.
Um, it winds me down, but it makes me feel good after. And honestly, my
Yeah.
body craves it.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, if I just work a long day, um, you know, some days you have to take that break. You have a real
Yeah.
long day, a real stressful day. Whatever you take your lickings, but it's it helps me sleep at night,
Yeah.
knowing that, just a little bit to do better. It's like the old saying of you make your bed in the morning, and that's one thing you accomplished.
Yeah.
You
That's
go to the
true.
gym and you automatically feel accomplished.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think the biggest thing too is where I'm good about going to the gym. Eating's another story. I know
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
probably ran
I
into
feel
it.
you on that.
Yeah, you forget
Yeah.
to eat. You get so wrapped
Yeah.
up in what's going on, especially
Yeah.
me. I get real into what I'm doing. I focus real hard, and and you forget to eat. So it's like you
Yeah.
you, you kind of have to be real good about it. You have to remember what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah. Like you said, that discipline. I like that you brought up eating because a lot of people, and I always ask too, like fitness side, working outside, but a lot of people disregard. Like if you're trying to gain muscle, especially being a blue collar worker, it's hard because you're on your feet all day. And like when I was working, with you guys, it would be a lot of like, okay, I just want to get this, this hour done and this chunk of stuff, this whatever we're doing done. And then I'll grab a snack or I'll grab something from my lunchbox. But it was always like we just got to keep moving. And at the end of the day, you're like, wait, I didn't really eat lunch.
Yeah,
Like when we're cleaning up, you're like, damn it, you know. So I like that you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of blue collar workers, who are into fitness or trying to change it. I mean, it might be good if you're trying to lose weight because you
yeah.
almost
Oh,
forget about
definitely.
it. But if
Yeah,
you're trying to
definitely.
gain, yeah, if you're trying to gain muscle, I feel like that could be where it's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, and that's pretty common. I mean, it's pretty common in our field. You'll see a lot of
Mhm.
people, and I know a lot of the people I've worked with.
Yeah,
You forget to eat, especially on
Yeah.
like the residential side of things.
Mhm.
You're pushing to get a job done. You're pushing to get out of there. There
Mhm.
you have work to do. I'm up a tree at 11 o'clock, and I'm
Yeah.
there. I'm there all day. I'm not coming back down. Once
Yeah.
you're up, you're not coming back down until
Yeah.
it's done. So
Yeah.
it's definitely hard to balance that. But
Yeah. Hun hun
I try to intermittent fast. It actually helps me a little
yeah.
bit more. But if I don't, there's days where I don't eat till about 11 o'clock. But
Yeah.
if I'm doing something at 11 o'clock, there's days where I'm pulling into the gym at 3, 4 o'clock and haven't even eaten breakfast yet, and then it's like,
Yeah.
well, screw
The
yourself,
the there goes that, I'm losing all my gains. No.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
hell yeah. So, let's pivot into the conspiracy theory side. So, we're gonna start off with kind of a goofy one, but it's cliche. So, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around, doesn't make noise, since you're triggered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
You
mean,
think so?
yeah, well, I mean, the cracking and everything, there's
Yeah.
like a generic noise. But if I'm talking about if I'm talking like, if it makes a sound like, squeals or whatever, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, cracking or whatever else, definitely, definitely.
You think so?
That's
I don't know. I'm not so quite sure because there's no one there to see. Like, does it actually make the noise?
I think so. It's all connected.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, do you think another tree question? Do you think these 5G towers, how many trees do you think are actually 5G towers?
Oh, oh, that's a good one. I feel like I don't know, the earth could be just a simulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many weird conspiracy theories out there. The pigeons
Yeah.
could just be
Cameras.
cameras and watching.
Yeah.
That brings yeah, I don't know. That's
Hell
a
yeah.
good one. I haven't
Well,
heard that one.
I mean, I've had this theory too. Have you ever like what's the Pokemon? It's the turtle with like the plants growing out the back.
Oh, not Squirtle then. That's
No,
Squirt
it's the grass one. It's
I have no
Turtwig's. Well, anyway, what if Earth is a living creature? Like all of Earth, like the dirt, the plants, everything is just one creature that we live on. And because we don't like think of it that way, we don't see
Huh.
it as a living thing.
Yeah, I don't believe that. That's a that's a weird one. That's a weird one. I don't believe that. Cause
Hell yeah.
where's the brain, dude?
Well, the brain is the core.
Ah, yeah, I don't know. Well, all right, then pivot that. So then, What about flat Earth?
Ooh, that's a good one. Here's the thing. I don't know. Well, okay, so I'm not a flat earther,
Okay,
but
okay. For the
you
record,
keep
on the
yeah,
record, you're not a flat earther.
on the record, I am not an officially a flat earther. But
Officially.
but
Yeah.
the thing is some of the claims they make are interesting. And why is it that like I'm an average civilian? Why can't well, I'm military, but why can't I just go down and take a vacation down to Antarctica as like if as a tourist? Like why
Yep.
couldn't I go take a vacation to Antarctica and like if I were to even go as a scientist or as like military or government official, why is it there's only certain places they can go? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's
Uh.
less safe places on Earth that I can just go and take a flight to and like travel, like
Exactly.
deserts and stuff. I'm gonna dry out like a raisin if I go into a desert without.
Yeah. Go to Africa and walk
Yeah,
around.
yeah,
Walk around in the walk
yeah,
around. There's a lot of weird. I'm on the record, I'm not a flat earther,
yeah.
but there's a lot of like very
Hmm.
intriguing things. I don't know. I might explain this wrong, but have you ever seen the flight, like the emergency flight landings?
Yeah.
That's a weird one. So it's correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like a lot of flights that'll take off, like say to like I don't even know Hawaii to Australia, and where you would see it like on a map or something.
Hmm.
You would see it on a map. It would look like it's a straight line. On a spherical map, it looks like a straight line,
Yeah.
but they'll land in a place that is completely out of the realm. It's like, well, you're going thousands of miles in the wrong or hundreds of miles in the wrong
Yeah.
direction to land. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
but then when you see it on a flat Earth map, it's in direct line with
Yeah.
where you're going.
Yeah. I don't understand that either. And so, like you said, what if we're all just a simulation? What if like quantum and maybe we're getting so woo woo, but
Yeah,
quantum
yeah,
was it quantum physics where like they have like an electron or a molecule that when you look at it from like the and I forgot the model, but it has like a rotating almost like the Earth kind of rotation, right?
yeah,
Where you have the electrons spinning around, but when you look at it in real life, it's almost like a wavelength or like a ripple of a pool. And then
yeah,
they've done tests where like they shoot the electrons and when it's being viewed, it'll show a certain way and when it's not being viewed, it'll show a different way. And maybe I'm messing up. I'm not a quantum physicist, but what if what if a lot of the things in reality follow that weird theory that we've observed but we don't understand quite yet? What if the earth is flat and round at the same time? What if it's some sort of
exactly.
singularity? Schrodinger's cat, where the cat is dead and alive at the same time?
That kind of reminds me. Do you remember that day? I think it was your actually I think it was your first day.
Yeah.
Do you? It was really weird. You were on the other side
Oh
of the
yeah.
property. Yeah, and Jake and I were on the other side dropping a tree, and it was
Yeah.
like someone turned a light switch off, and the entire sky just like everything just went
Yeah.
black for like a quarter of a second.
Yeah. And we all stopped and we were like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, you were on the other side of the house,
Yeah.
and then you walked over like a minute later, and you're like, "Did you see that?" Like we asked, and you're like, "Yeah, it's like someone flipped the light switch off on like
Yeah.
the Earth, dude." That was weird. I've never
Yeah.
experienced anything like that. We looked
Yeah.
up in the sky, like no birds, no like
Yeah.
planes, no nothing.
Yeah.
It was just dark for a second, and then 12, what was it, 12:17 or something?
Yeah. Yeah, literally like and it was probably maybe like 1 second or something like that, just literally like almost like a flicker. And we were just
Yeah, yeah, it was weird. Yeah, it's like I was joking about that. I
yeah,
was like,
the
it looks like someone on the
simulation.
simulation shut the switch off by
Yeah.
accident.
Oops, wrong
Yeah,
button.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's like a lot of weird things. Have you heard like back to Antarctica? Have
Mhm.
you heard about like the ice walls are one of them.
Yes.
The pyramids that put like the
Yes.
Egypt periods to shame.
Yes. Yes. So I have a theory. So I'm an anthropology minor, and the professor I had for the last class last semester, he's really, really interesting. He's not a conspiracy theorist. I don't want to put him out on blast because I think I've mentioned I go to Southern on my other podcast. So I don't want to put any of those professors on blast. But my
Conspiracy
personal,
intriguist.
yes, my personal theory is that because the human, like our story, our what we know as fact, the human history, written history, is so new. If I'm not mistaken, I think we might have less than 60,000 years. Actually, it might be even less than that. It might be like 10 to 30,000, somewhere between that range, where written, no historical events are found. And it started off with just like cave paintings. But what if, we've existed for 300,000 years? What if we once existed in Antarctica, and there was pyramids because there's pyramids in South America, there's pyramids in Africa, there's pyramids found almost all over the world. Even so much so, there's actually all of North, South, and the islands of North and South America, they have these things called mounds, which we don't really understand. There's multiple theories and like they found different things, but it was literally like these giant dirt mounds where they stored things or buried people in, and nobody really knows. And that's all on our side of the planet. But pyramids are found throughout. So I have no doubt that what if there was an ancient civilization?
Yeah. I definitely question that. It's so weird. It's like the how the pyramids were
Yeah.
made. I mean, it still
Yeah.
boggles
Exactly.
everyone. I mean, these stones were what, hundreds of tons,
Yeah.
and they traveled like 400 miles or something
Hmm.
over rivers and all that type
Yeah.
of thing. And
Yeah.
like they're so I mean the measurements are wrong, but that I'm gonna say, but they're like 0.00 like one like
Yeah.
perfectly in lined with the like no
Hmm.
the compass. Like and it's like if they were like 0.00001 degree
Yeah.
off at the base, they would have been off on the whole thing. It is
Yeah.
completely boggling on how they were actually made.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about that is like now I think we're starting to discover and experiment with like sound as a way to move things, like vibrational. I saw a TikTok and it was kind of a silly TikTok. The guy like put like a really bass heavy sound on a like a big almost like subwoofer, and literally had like a little squirt gun or whatever, or a water bottle actually, and a hose. And he experimented with it. And as the song, like the bass hit really hard, it would like cause the water to have different wavelengths, almost like sound. The sound was going through the water and creating like simulated wavelengths. And I think we're rediscovering that because I think that's potentially what they've used. Again, there's no evidence for this, but it just makes sense that there had to be some sort of advanced technology to build these things. And then another theory that I've heard recently is that if you look at today what we have, like our phones, these things will degrade. I mean, I don't know if they've done any tests, but these things seem to degrade pretty quick out in nature. What if they had advanced technology like that? I mean, you have the was it the Atlas computer that they found off the coast of Greece from ancient Greek era, the ancient Greek era. It might even predate that if I'm not mistaken. And it's a computer because they found cogs, but they don't know how it was really used fully.
Hmm.
And it's not the only piece since then, since the first one was found. So what if all these advanced pieces of technology that we had, or maybe the aliens gave us,
Mm.
um, maybe they've just degraded over the hundreds of thousands of years that we've lived in the at crazy environments, because Egypt is in Africa, which is now in that part very desert and very dry. So maybe it's just been so degraded.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I don't disagree with that. They said too that like it was like when they were making these stones, it was like someone
Hmm.
had like an ice cream scooper, and
Yeah,
like that's like the marks that it had on these mountains that
yeah,
are hundreds of miles away,
yeah,
carving out these stones. Like
yeah,
there's no way it's not chiseled, it was like carved by
exactly.
like just smoothed out. There was easily some type of technology back then that I don't think we have access to and
Yeah,
or we haven't figured out. We've probably someone on Rogan they were talking about the pyramids. It was two guys
yeah,
and they
yeah,
they had really good points where it's like we could have went a totally different route on
yeah,
how we now perceive technology than what they found in their own technology
yeah.
realm.
Yeah, because like, and that makes sense. Like, think about it. They probably use some sort of different type of technology that is completely applicable. And I mean, if you even look at how we like the Industrial Revolution, we kind of fell into that pigeonhole of like you know mechanical, physically mechanical objects. Like, look at our cars. Look at you look at like something like the skid steer or the wood chipper. Those are physically mechanical objects that
Yep.
a motor turns another piece that turns another piece that eventually gets what you want, or allows you to have a bigger tool. So like, what if they had some sort of different philosophy behind, like you said, behind those technologies?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure we can't comprehend that at all, but
Hmm.
there was definitely something going on
Yeah,
that we haven't figured out yet.
100%. And then I've also heard the theory that what if aliens were just more human than us?
That could yeah, that's weird. That's a weird one
Yeah,
to think about.
because
Have
there's
you have you heard about DUMS?
what's that?
A deep underground military base.
Whew, all right. All right, I got some so there's actually a conspiracy theory within my family. So my grandfather's from Puerto Rico. He was a construction worker. Like, he could tell you how many cinder blocks, how many pounds of cement, and how long it would take to build a house or a building just by looking at it. Like, he grew that was what he did his entire life. He was like that that he was a professional. When my dad was really young, he got a job. And I don't even know if I should be saying this. I don't know if he should ever told my family this. But my dad, so he told my dad and my grandmother that he was just going to be gone for a few days. When he got back, they asked him, "Where'd you go?" And it was, in the island, deep in the island. He said, "Oh, we were in the El Yunque, which is the rainforest." And so they were like, "Oh, he's just bullshit. He's just joking, right?" Now, recently, and now this was a few years ago, there was a video and a few like conspiracies that came out that there's a secret base underground in the rainforest of Puerto Rico.
Mm. There's
So,
a there's a lot of it. Like I mean, a lot of it's really, really hidden and not
mhm,
and there and I'm sure you can like find some stuff online, but I know
Yeah.
a lot of it's kind of kept under wraps.
Yeah.
But places like Area 51,
Yeah.
from what everyone talks about, is like a really old, outdated base that
Yeah.
pretty much nothing goes on there because
Yeah.
it's everybody knows about it and they want everybody to know about it.
Yeah.
But if you see like they have like these like truckers and stuff that will
Mhm.
like in bases of mountains, like in
Yeah.
the middle of rainforests, in the middle
Yeah.
of like deserts, whatever.
Yeah.
They will go they're highly secure, but they will
Mhm.
travel underground for hundreds of
Yes.
miles and like
Yes.
delivering stuff hundreds of miles underneath the ground, and it's all
Yes.
super confidential.
Yeah.
But I mean, you'll still see those reports. I mean, you don't know how true it is or not, but
Mhm.
you don't know how true it is or not, but you'll see these reports of people going out and yeah, and like
Yeah.
coming out and saying saying what they like saw and stuff. But I mean, it's like they have to go to trial. There's
Yeah.
whistleblower stuff going on, and it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it's really interesting. It's
Yeah.
like curious to go on what goes down there. They say there's like aliens and stuff just like
Yeah.
walking around there from willy nilly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reports of like the same stuff, and it's really strange.
Yeah. Well, what I find strange is, and being like a military aviator, I haven't had any weird UFO or UAP experiences, right? But the Navy has a whole office, it has a whole branch dedicated to UFO research and like classification. And the Navy in the past like 5 years, has put out more and more videos from fighter pilots doing exercises. They're obviously not doing actual combat operations, and they're seeing these weird, aircraft zooming by, or the aircraft will zoom by up to like the cockpit right by the fighter jet and then zoom away. And a lot of those fighters who get out, they go on like shows like Joe Rogan, the Joe
Yeah,
Rogan experience. And to me, it's just weird because for years, I mean, years, this stuff has been totally hush hush by the government. And then Trump, I think during COVID, like there was this big, the Relief Act, and then at the end of it was like to release and unclassify UFO research. Why would that matter so much? And there's
yeah.
another president that tried to do that. They gave him a briefing about what actually they know, and he was in shock and disgust. He was so afraid of what he learned, and he never declassified it after that was one thing he wanted to do. And this was during the Roswell, Area 51 era back in the, I want to say maybe 60s and 70s. It was a little bit after that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange that now they're coming out with these different things, but
Hmm.
it's almost like they want you to know, and
Yeah.
which is like they're distracting you from what
Yeah.
from what you should know,
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on about that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm really interested in that. That
Yeah.
stuff's really cool to me.
Yeah.
I like listening to like the podcast and everybody with
Uh-huh.
people talking about it. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
There's so many different conspiracies and stuff that
Yeah.
goes on. It's hard to decipher,
Yeah.
like
Who's
what could be
crazy?
real, what can't be real.
Yeah.
People lie all the time, so it's
Yeah.
hard to know, but it's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah. Well, what I find is really interesting. So there's two stories. There was a couple that was like abducted. They have an abduction story. And the husband was like, the typical, I think he was like operated on or tested on. But the wife, she met with some of these, aliens, creatures, whatever they are. And they like showed her where her home was, and she like memorized it. So when she went through hypnotherapy and like those memories came to light, she wrote down the map of like the star system that they're from. And she like had it in her house, right? When they did this research, that star system and those stars and those planets, like galaxies and galaxies far away, sounds like something from Star Wars, but
Yeah.
along like very far away, were found like years after they died. And these people were just average people. They worked like a 9 to 5 and just had this weird experience of being abducted. And like the husband and the wife both had night terrors for the rest of like for a long time. That's why they got hypnotherapy and stuff. And they found the map that she wrote of what she saw from them, and they compared it to what scientists had just found on a telescope, and they were accurate. Like how would she ever know that if she wasn't a scientist, an astronomist,
Yeah,
and it's like
exactly.
that validates it. And there's other stories like that. There's a tribe in Africa that knew about a star system because the people from the sky who were like their deities or their
Yep.
the people that came down to them back when they originated, right? That's their story, is they met with these ancient, star people, I think they called it, or something along those lines, and they told them where they're from. And researchers recently went in there and found out that there should be no way that they know about this. And this star system was just recently found a few years ago. And it's like, how is this possible? You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's weird conspiracies too. I just saw this one, I think, a couple days ago.
Yeah.
It was on TikTok, that's because that's a reliable source. But
Yeah.
yeah, but they were talking like when the moon landing happened, they were talking why no like Neil Armstrong and those and
Hmm.
Buzz Aldrin and all those people, why they were so weird when they came back and were being
Yeah.
interviewed, and why they still don't talk about it, and
Hmm.
like some of them do. But they were talking about how they were being watched when they landed on the moon, like very, very closely, by like, extraterrestrials and that type of thing, that they were being watched. But I mean, at the same time, I don't believe the moon landing
Yeah.
was real.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many weird avenues.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many rabbit holes you can go down. It'll
Well,
consume you.
yeah. Well, I think the thing is too is like, how can you like, and I not necessarily trust what someone says, but like this sounds terrible, but like when the government says we landed on the moon, and then there's other aspects of things they've done or said that aren't true. So it's like, how can I trust you on something so crazy like that? And then like filmmakers and special effects artists have like recreated it and been like, hey, listen, like you can see in this scene, there's literally like a string, creating that the astronaut having the little anti-gravity jump. Like, I don't think we were there.
Yeah, 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 and they how they lost all the
Yeah.
blueprints they
Yeah.
lost all the blueprints, and they're talking about the computer system is
Yeah.
like our smartphones and our
Yeah.
computers and everything is 100 times more advanced than anything they could have come up with.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it was the space race and that like Russia was going and everybody else was going, and it was like, I mean, that could have easily just been like, oh, we're gonna put it out there that we are the first people there,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the fact that it's like we still haven't like there's a lot of like conspiracies that we still haven't made it out of Earth's orbit.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
make you'd like fry it's like there's other like scientific things that they say that it's like you can't even get out of Earth's orbit because
Yeah.
you'll burn up or scorch and you won't be able to get back in on how
Yeah.
they say it works.
Yeah. That's the truth. And it's crazy because it's like, well, how do we know what's real and what's not? And then how do we know like I don't know, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about like basically, in short and simple, the government's giving us, making our food, poisoning our food essentially, or like poisoning certain things. And it's like,
Oh
well,
yeah.
like I mean, and again, it goes down rabbit holes, but it's like, how do we know for certain that what they say in that aspect is true? Because like, look at Bill Gates. He posted like a nutritional thing, and he said peanut M&Ms are better than beef.
What?
Like, they're healthier. Yeah, that was a recent thing. There was like this kind of chart that came out, and supposedly because of the nutrients in peanut M&Ms and like the risk of conditions and stuff like that you could get from eating beef long term, it's safer to eat peanut M&Ms long term. And I was like, that's bullshit. And this is the same guy that's creating lab grown meat. I'm kind of going
Yeah.
off in a random direction, but
Yeah,
it's like
no, yo. Yeah.
it's like why is it that they're trying to corral our minds into one way of saying, oh, like we've eaten red meat for thousands of years from all kinds of different animals that have that red meat, beef type meat,
Yeah.
and we've been fine. Like people have lived healthy. Some people are healthier eating beef than eating, what processed fast food or what, random stuff, right?
Yeah,
Nutritionally
look
that's
at the Liver
safe.
King.
Yeah, exactly. Eat
Yeah.
some bull testicles and I'm gonna be like, buff.
Yeah, bull testicles and HGH.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that that is just, and then going back to the moon landing, I don't know. It's just like we could recreate a video like that pretty damn easily.
Way
Have
easier
we?
now than back then too.
Yeah. Have we been there? Like, have we really? And then, like, I don't know. There's satellites and stuff that have shown like pyramids on Mars and like different structures on Mars, and it's like, wait a second, something doesn't add up here.
Yeah, it's weird too because they'll show like the ice wall. They'll show like
Yeah,
the ice walls on like the other side of Antarctica, and there's so many reports of UFOs and stuff and
yeah,
military bases in Antarctica, which is why the average guy can't
yeah,
just like go to Antarctica. They
yeah,
won't let you.
yeah,
But and they say everyone who goes there, they talk about the ice walls and that they see things on the other side of the ice walls like
yeah,
coming up. It's really strange. I mean, there's
yeah,
plane footage of the walls and everything too. It's like
yeah.
how scripted is some of that, or how scripted isn't it?
Sorry, the dog. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like, I think the more advanced we get as like average people, right? Of being able to have drones and being able to have like a lot more people are able to fly. Becoming a private pilot is becoming a lot more accessible nowadays, and like having your own, plane or whatever, right? Things are becoming a little bit easier to get into those areas. So it's like we're testing it. We're like, wait a second, the ice walls might actually exist. There might be something going on here, and then underground, like you said, underground tunnels, underground bases, seeing UFOs like dive into the water, and they report seeing like these giant lights underwater, coming up, going down, all this weird funky stuff that like when you put if you were to like make like one of those little string maps that you see on the crazy person making a movie, but they kind of do add up together. It's like, well, yeah, it would make sense that they would go on the outer edge of Antarctica. It would make
Yep.
sense that they'd be underground to hide. It would make sense that we are trying to pivot how we think about things as a whole, or how we, the government would be like, no, 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 that's not real, or they would be like, oh no, aliens are real, we have this UFO footage from a, Navy fighter jet. It would make
Yeah.
sense if they're trying to slowly let it out or slowly hide it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at least it's they're starting to talk about it, that
Yeah,
it's not just like imaginatory, but
yeah,
I mean, still, it's really kept under wraps quite well. But
yeah.
I mean, you see so many reports off the coast of like San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
You see like there's a direct correlation with like the Mariana Trench and like
Yeah,
the Bermuda Triangle, which is its own thing. But I mean, there's so many different like known sightings of like a lot of different stuff, like and weird correlations with a lot of things that we have no idea about.
yeah. And that's, yeah, it's just weird. There's like rabbit holes you go down and you're like, wait a second, like, and then you get the occasional crazy person who you're like, you might be schizophrenic, so I'm gonna, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
watch
you
your
might be
videos.
on to you might
Yeah,
be on to something, but you're definitely
yeah,
schizophrenic.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, there's. I mean, TikTok. There was a whole like conspiracy on that. Did you hear about the giant, the guy that was in Canada? He
Yeah,
was.
up on the mountain.
He took the video and he kept like looking into it, and then he died a few months later, and
Yep.
just like everything got removed, and he
Yeah,
made like a
he
video.
disappeared for a while, and then
Yeah,
all of a sudden he came back, like said he was being watched and followed and stuff, and
yeah,
then he just mysteriously dies.
yeah, yeah, and it's like, w- I don't know. It just begs to differ. There's a story about the Kandahar giant. I don't know if you ever heard about that.
No.
So in Iraq, there was a Marine unit that went missing. They were on patrol and they went missing. Like there was no communications heard. So they sent in a special forces unit. They thought it was, I think the Taliban or Al Qaeda at the time that was, just killed them, or took them, right, kidnapped them, and they went into the area where there was last communication, and there was a mountain range. So they kind of went up into the mountain range just to see, what was going on, and they found a bunch of their gear scattered around, like bullet vests and water, like the canteens and weapons and ammo, right? So it looked like there was a fight or they were kidnapped or something happened. So it led into this cave. So it's well known that terrorist fighters actually use the cave systems in Iraq and Afghanistan as kind of like their base, or where they hide or where they shoot from, because it's kind of like a tactical natural advantage. So they go in to check and clear it out, see if any other Marines were in there that were, went missing. And what they found was a six-fingered, red-haired giant. Supposedly it had like two rows of teeth. It was just like odd. This thing, I think they said, I might be wrong on this, the height, but it was like 20 something feet tall. And they engaged it and they killed it. And this thing was like a monster. It just was, attacking people. They killed it. They called it in. Nobody believed them initially, but they're like, no, this is it. So a Black Hawk lands, they sling load it, and they bring it to another base where they load it on a C-130. All the air crew, all the special forces personnel, everybody that was involved with this and saw this, signed an NDA, and this was taken obviously probably some undisclosed location, right? That's how the story goes.
Yep.
And it's like, well, I mean, there's videos now of giants on mountaintops, so you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird, you know, a
Mhm.
lot of it's under wraps and kept under wraps.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to freak everybody out,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the same time, it's like, what's actually real? What's
Yeah.
going on?
Exactly. What is the truth? Because I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of things. I might sound crazy talking about these conspiracy theories, but I
Yeah,
enjoy
right
them.
there
It's
with you.
entertaining.
Yeah, it's really entertaining. Whether
But
you believe it or not,
yeah,
you can't argue with the fact that it's, it gets your mind going, like what's
yeah,
going on.
yeah. It makes you think like, what is, like you said, what is the truth? What's actually happening? Like,
Yeah.
where are things going, and what are they? Because I mean, there's even reports that aliens, work with the government and are like doing research in these underground,
Yeah.
bases or in secret, locations and stuff. And that's why we have so many technological advancements from, from our phones. Back in 2000, this phone would have like didn't even exist. It was like this tiny little beat up thing, and now we have phones with Face ID, and now these things where they're going to implant in our brains a Neuralink, Elon
Yeah.
Musk Neuralink type stuff. And it's like, where are all these things coming from so rapidly?
Yeah. Same thing with AI and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother thing. That's gonna be
Yeah,
an issue. That's gonna be an issue in the next 20 years.
yeah. Well, I mean, even, think about it like the Terminator aspect. Like, yeah, they might like try to come and kill us or destroy us, but like, what about knowing what's real and what's not? Have you seen like there's like the Minecraft videos where like it's Trump, Biden, Ben Shapiro, Obama, like it'll be like Joe Rogan, and they do like the voiceovers, and it's like
Yeah.
them on a Minecraft world, and they're like, no, 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 we're gonna get it's like that sounds like legitimately them talking.
Them, yeah. And the same thing with, like, the singers and stuff, the
Mm-hmm.
AI of, like, hearing people, like, sing,
Yeah.
like where it's like, that's not actually me, I didn't sing that, but, I mean, there's, like, a lot of it for, like, Morgan Wallen and all those different artists where
Yeah.
it's like there's, like, a lot of parodies of AI that's very hard to tell that it's not them, but
Yeah.
it's not them.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a song that some like small independent rapper made, and they AI'd Kanye's voice like as a freestyle in it recently. And there was like this big debate. Did Kanye actually like do something for this song? Did he play a part, or was it AI? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it turned out to be AI, and they almost got sued. Like they almost
Oh,
got in trouble, if I'm not mistaken.
hmm,
Which is, I mean, it's just weird. Like, you can create your own, like, I could theoretically create an interview with Joe Rogan if I wanted to with AI,
exactly.
and it's scary. It's honestly scary.
Yeah. I mean, you're already starting to see it, which this is just the beginning,
Yeah.
but next they're gonna be I mean, like ChatGPT and all that
Hmm.
stuff's going on now. It's
Yeah.
very, very strange.
Yeah.
Snapchat coming out with their own AI chatbot.
Yeah.
Did
That's
you mess around with that at all or no?
a little bit. I use Chat GPT. I'll use it to like kind of like if this interview, like, I'll put in parts of the transcript, and I'll be like, okay, where can I improve, things like that. But like the AI bot on Snapchat, I did it once. I don't know what I said. I said something. I was like trolling it, and it got like mad at me. Like, it was
Really?
like, we're not talking right now, and it like didn't block me, but it just wouldn't respond for a little bit. I probably
Huh.
said some like fucked up things to it, but
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
was like,
Rightfully so.
yeah, yeah. But I was like, why? Like, I'm blown away by it, but I'm kind of scared because I'm like, this thing is literally responding to me almost like a person. Like, it's a robot, it's a computer program, but
Yeah.
it's like it has enough human in
Human-esque.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
It's really weird. I never mess with it. I don't know what's gonna come back or
yeah.
what's not, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean everything's tracked now. I mean, they know
Mhm.
exactly like everything. It's like, the weirdest ones like you go anywhere
Yeah.
and your directions pop up, driving to work in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
directions to, our shop. And
Yeah.
every morning I get home from work and it's like directions to my gym. Friday night comes
Yeah.
around and it's like it's giving me directions to my girlfriend's house
Yeah.
and it's like how do they know this?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I go to school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I usually wake up, leave about like 6:30. So I leave about at 6:30 in the morning. I'll hop in the car, and the same thing. I'll like load up Apple Maps, and the first thing will be up is Southern Connecticut University. I'm like, How do you know
Yeah.
I'm going? How do you know I'm not gonna go to the gym early in the morning today? And that's scary
Yeah.
because it knows, like, my habits, I guess, which is
Yeah, and
really
then
scary.
you talk about something and it
Mhm.
pops right back up. Like
Yeah.
I was talking about a show I was watching and a clip from a show I was
Yeah.
watching,
Yeah.
and I opened TikTok not 20 minutes later and it was the exact clip from the show on the first one on my For You page. It's
Yeah.
like how does that
Yeah.
correlate? Like you're definitely listening, it didn't just pop up, you
Yeah.
know?